Hello there folks, I'm Dan Brown from sortofinteresting.com and today you're joining me on board good old narrowboat Abel's Ark for some real-time boating in 4K with natural sounds as recorded by a GoPro on a tripod on the boat roof. This is going to be a very short boat trip as we're only going to go just round a few corners, maybe 15 minutes or so travelling, and well, I hope you'll enjoy the trip. I'll chime in every now and then with a few points of interest, but for the most part this is just going to be completely natural, calm sounds. Anyway, let's go boating. So, as we enter into the bridge, you'll see that I got my alignment all completely wrong, by which I mean I'm maybe a foot and a half away from the towpath on the right hand side, and it's unbelievable how close this brings us to the underside of the archway of this little humpback bridge here, especially with the camera on top of the tripod on the roof here. Now, my main concern at this point was keeping the pram cover from the stern that was all folded over and put on the roof just in front of where I stand on the stern, away from scraping along the left hand side of the bridge, and I just put a tiny little hole in one of the window sections as it just clipped the side of the bridge here. So we've got an interesting little bit of canal ahead, as it's going to get extremely narrow very shortly. But before that, we've got this rare moment here where for a few hundred feet the canal actually runs parallel to the road for this short burst, which in this area of the country doesn't seem to happen very often. And as much as it doesn't make for a nice, peaceful, rural canal sort of scene, there is something nice that I've said before at different points on the canal, that you have this parallel of life where we're travelling at a couple of miles an hour, just moving up round the corner on an icy morning, just for the enjoyment of boating, whereas the road, you've got people whizzing by on their way to work and travelling faster than this boat will ever travel, even if you took it out of the water and put it on a trailer. You might be able to tell now that from our perspective, just above the kayak, the canal narrows in for just a few feet, and on either side of the canal there's grooves in the stonework to drop down planks so that they can stop off the canal and drain a section for maintenance if they so wanted. And I'm not sure if there used to be a bridge across there, and that's why that specific narrow part is in this particular point. I'll have to look that up and get back to you in the comments on this video, so apologies there. But as we pass through this, you'll see how much narrower the canal becomes, and it stays pretty narrow right the way up until you get to the other side of Chirk Aqueduct. And it may appear as if, as we pass through this very narrow section into the slightly wider but still narrow section, as if the boat is absolutely dominating the width of the canal at this point. And as much as that's what it looks like from our perspective, you can still get two boats to pass each other at this particular point. But as we go around the corner, it's going to narrow up even more. And all I'll say is that I wouldn't fancy passing any fancy, brand new, freshly painted narrowboats at this particular section. If you have a glance to your left now, you might see a little green hobbit hole door, just a random little feature there, very nice. So believe it or not, my friends, we're already at the destination. As I said at the start, it was only going to be a short trip, and the idea was I wanted to come up to this very specific section here at Kirkbank, as this is where I originally spent my first ever winter mooring period on my first narrowboat Tilly, and this is where I first saw snow on board, and there's just a lot of nostalgic great memories from early boat life. And it's terrifying to think that it was 6 years ago to the day that I was moored up on this spot, and I ended up ultimately mooring up with one of the exact same rings that narrowboat Tilly had been moored up with all those years ago. So what you're seeing here is basically me running up and down looking at the position of the mooring rings on the bank, seeing if there were any that were spaced conveniently to simply just moor up the front and back of Abel's Ark to the rings. However, as with many places with these rings built in, they're not necessarily built for your personal convenience. So I ended up using the ring for the back mooring, then tying a rope from the handrail down to one ring, and then driving a mooring pin into the ground to go to the proper front of the boat mooring line. So again, all fun and games, and yet another example of how it can take half of the time of a boat trip just dealing with the ropes before and after. Anyway, I'll wrap things up now. I'll let the video run on after I finish saying all my book plugs and stuff, just in case you want to keep watching me run up and down the canal side here. And I'll simply say, thank you for tuning in. Please do check out my other videos. There's hundreds of boat life videos from my previous narrowboat, and of course subscribe for all the boat life videos that are to come, as well as hitting the notification button so that YouTube will hopefully tell you when I post a new video. Feel free to check out my short books about boat life on narrowboat Tilly. You'll find a paperback, Kindle versions, and even one that recorded as an audiobook. Speaking of audiobooks, the book that I was working on throughout 2018, I am now releasing completely free as an episodic monthly post on the website, as well as an audiobook version here on YouTube. If you want to support that, then please check out my Patreon, as I don't hide anything behind the paywall. Everything I do is available for free out there on YouTube, so Patreon's entirely optional, but the support of those of you who have really does mean a lot and is incredibly useful, as you can imagine. So again, check the links in the description, you'll find all the stuff I've just mentioned, plus a load of other random Facebook links and things like that. Feel free to add me and follow me and stuff. But ultimately, until the next time, my friends, have an absolutely fantastic day, keep it interesting, keep it boat worthy, and of course, my friends, farewell.